Hello everyone, this is your girl Jeannie Nicole coming to you again this Friday afternoon with a video. It's just me today. The husband is at work. He is, as y'all know, an entrepreneur, so since he's just opened his store, he is going to be working at basically 7 days a week until he hires some good quality help. So be praying for us that he will find the right type of employees to help him run his business. So, as many of you know, or if you're new to the channel, my husband and I, and sometimes my daughter, we make videos on basically our lifestyle and inspiration, definitely centered around faith. And we relocated to Florida about 6 weeks ago now. That's so crazy to even say that we are Floridians. And yes, it is warm outside, but our house is cold. So that's why I have on long sleeves as far as like my lounging gear. But I want to hop on here real quick and just kind of make a video on how we have found our church home so fast. So I am a hairstylist, and that is one thing that a lot of clients are saying, you know, as I kind of let them know where we are in our journey as far as getting settled in. They were shocked. Everybody was shocked that we found a church home in like about the first 3 weeks of being here. And so I just wanted to kind of lay out some pointers and some tips that I did to help us be more efficient in finding a church home. And the reason this was so important to us, first of all, was that we knew that we were going to have to start over with our village. And if any of you all, or all of you all, or most of y'all are regular church goers, you know, aside from what happened with the pandemic, you know how important it is to have a church family, especially when you are away from your birthplace, because your church family becomes your family away from home, like your family that's not blood related to you, basically. So we felt like that was really important for us to, you know, go ahead and promptly find a place of worship so that we could stay plugged in, continue to serve the people of God and those that are not believers. We are big on, you know, just not just taking up a room on a pew, but just, you know, being plugged in. And we have seen benefits of that as well. But anyway, not to go off on a tangent, just want to lay out how we found a church home so quickly, aside from obviously God leading us. I hopped on a Facebook group. First of all, tip number one is, I would say you have to have a desire. You have to want to find a church home. Excuse me, something's flying in my face. If you don't even want to find a church home, you will find every excuse on as to why, you know what I mean? Like, you aren't ready to go to church, or you're not really actively looking or pursuing, you know, trying to find a place. So number one, you have to have a desire to begin with. Number two, being that we were not from this state, I hopped on a few Facebook groups and they were titled things like moving to Florida, or moving to Bradenton, or Sarasota, Manatee County, anything linked to the area that, you know, we were moving to and I found to be relevant. I got on there and I researched. And I just asked people. A lot of these Facebook groups have thousands of members. So of course you do want to be cautious as to what kind of information you are sharing with people, as we try to be on YouTube too. But there is no shame in being transparent and just saying, hey, my family's new here, you know, just like everybody else. What church homes have y'all found that you really like? And there was one church in particular that kept coming up. I mean, it came up several times from several different, people. And there were a few others as well. But this particular church came up, so I made a list. The second tip I would say is to make a list once you have gathered the information from credible sources or people that you feel like you could even remotely trust. After you have expressed, you know, what you're looking for. So a lot of us were going on there saying, hey, we're looking for a church home with diversity. Of course, that believes in the power of God, the power of the Holy Spirit. Non-denominational, that was another big one that a lot of people were, you know, posting on these forums, and we were looking for that as well, especially being that we're a blended family, you know, all these things. So like I said, this one particular church kept popping up. So tip number 2, I made a list of all the churches that people were highly recommending on this Facebook forum, or these Facebook forums. And actually a few other women had reached out to me as well in a private message and was just asking, hey, I know y'all are there already. How do you feel about the church so far? And blah, blah, blah. So just make a list of the churches and, you know, decide to visit each one until you find out which few narrow down and help you to narrow down to and help you get close to, what your ideal place of worship is. So after making a list, I'll be honest, we didn't even make it through the list because God moved on our behalf. So I had a client and I could just tell she was a believer. Of course, not everybody that I have is a believer, but for the most part, everybody is. And I could just tell her countenance, everything. She was just so sweet. She had such a sweet spirit about herself. And she made an appointment for a consultation. So she came back in 2 weeks and she got a full service done. And we just ended up talking. I mean, we had so much in common. It was almost eerie. And like we have the same birthday. So we naturally ended up talking about our faith and church, and she jumps up and she's like, oh my gosh, you totally should try my church. And I was like, well, when people say that, first of all, I never come out and just tell people to come to my church. Like, I just tell them what I love about my church and they end up coming. Like, they almost invite themselves. But it's almost usually awkward when people do that, at least for me, because it's like, you don't even know what I'm looking for, you know. So I usually don't respond with a yes or no. I just say, well, this is what we're looking for. And a lot of times, if they feel like their church has what we're looking for, then they'll, you know, say it again or invite us. And if not, they'll shut it down. Like, they don't say anything else, which is cool. That works for me. So I just let her know, hey, we're looking for diversity. We prefer non-denominational and, you know, a great worship experience, life groups. We like to serve. We like to get plugged in, you know, and things like that. And she was like, oh, yeah, we need a youth group. We got a 15-year-old. Like, she needs friends. You know, we've been praying for her, some really good quality friends. And so this was like on a Wednesday or a Thursday. She's like, yes, my church has all of that. My daughter is 33, so y'all are close in age. You guys should definitely check it out. I'm like, okay. So oddly enough, her church was the exact the name of the church that was mentioned several times in the Facebook forum. So there was the first, you know, little inkling of, ooh, this might be, you know, where we need to go. So then a few days later, after that, my husband had to hire a carpenter to help build out his store in the mall. So him and the guy, they're exchanging dialogue. I mean, they've been talking for weeks now because they're working on this project together. And he's just constantly having to reach out to my husband to get input and, you know, just get his okay on, you know, how to set this up. And so my husband's like, yeah. You know, his carpenter friend, you know, he's actually a believer. He goes to church, and he could tell that he was as well, as they indulged in, you know, several conversations. So he's like, honey, he was telling me we need to go to his church. And I'm like, okay, well, I kind of, you know, had this church recommendation lined up. So, okay, maybe we can visit his church next Sunday then. So I asked him a conversation. I said, honey, what was the name of his church? You know, whatever. Y'all, the name of his carpenter's church recommendation was the same church recommendation that my client, who doesn't even know him, told me about. And this was also, like I said, the same church that a few people told me about on our Facebook private group. I don't know. People always ask, well, how do you know God is speaking to you? This is how he does us. He just leads us in these little ways. So we visited the church for the first time a few weeks ago. And I think we had been here 2 weeks at that point. And I sensed the presence of God so strong, I could not hold back the tears. Like, that was before worship even really got started. The word of God was so good. And the presence of God was so strong. I was like, oh my God. My husband looked at me after service. He said, we're not looking nowhere else. This it. So, needless to say, things are different now. Technology is a thing. I know a lot of people don't like Facebook and social media, but you have to put yourself out there in some kind of way. I mean, through Facebook, that's how I even met my husband. Y'all know that from the first video that we did together. And then, I mean, you just kind of have to be creative and step outside of your box and your comfort zone. I would have never thought to start looking for a church home online, you know what I mean? Or on a Facebook group. But it worked, and then just talking to people, letting them know what you're looking for, as you come across different people, whatever your profession is, or your neighbors, just different people. So don't be afraid to ask around. Like, join a Facebook group before you get to Florida and do your research. Take a list, write down a list of places to visit. That would be the second tip. And the third is, my dog is just over here playing by himself. But anyway, there he is. Bentley. Yeah, he's just rolling around. He's doing his thing. But anyway, so yeah, and third, just keep asking around, until you feel like the Spirit of the Lord is leading you, to a particular place. But be encouraged. If you are moving to another state, it can happen for you. It may not happen in 2 weeks. It may happen in 2 months, or I don't think it would take a year or two if you, like I said, have the desire first. But yep, just wanted to leave those tips with y'all. If you found this video to be helpful, please don't forget to thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We will be producing more content on how to get settled in a new state, particularly Florida, and some things that we have found that we enjoy and things that have been helpful to us during our journey. So, y'all have a great weekend. Thank you.